Give it a minute here as people come in.
Sure.
We were just catching up on golf. Bryan is like a handicap golfer or a zero handicap golfer, I guess is the right way to
No,
put it.
no,
Oh,
no.
come on.
I wish.
Close,
Can always be a little closer, right?
for sure. So, I just want to reminisce for a moment of high level intro. This is Bryan Cosgrove joining us from TikTok. And I'm so excited that you're here and really grateful. And one of the things I think about was right when you started this job, it was summer 2019. And I had heard about TikTok, but I was very curious about it. I didn't know a lot about it. I just knew that it was blowing up. And I knew that you going there really legitimized it from a music industry standpoint, because you became sort of the face for me, at least. And I remember sort of the early stages of this Wild West moment where brands and users could use whatever song they wanted. But as a result, it was just blowing up these songs, or even like unearthing songs that hadn't been popular in 30 years. And there's just this really amazing sort of momentum in early TikTok users. And that's when we were talking about the commercial music library and sort of this concept of, we're going to have to tell brands they can't use whatever songs they want anymore unless they're going to get a real license, similar to a lot of other platforms. And we were lucky enough to be part of that initial launch of the commercial music library, where essentially like we had 1,000 score songs of these 4,000 songs that brands could use at no cost because we had a deal with you guys. And so I just want to say thank you for believing in us to be that early partner, because it's just been incredible to see the success fast forwarding to today, where we have these songs that remain viral and sort of like intrinsically like married to the TikTok platform and culture that is really meaningful, like you see with users and brands. So
Yeah, we were really lucky to have partners like you guys come in, I think, at that time and see the vision, see what we were trying to do. I think it takes a certain type of company, it takes a certain type of team to recognize the opportunity and kind of look at these innovative ideas and take that leap of faith. I remember sitting at Stanley's with you and talking about it, and it was like you got it immediately. And I think from that point on, we were really off to the races.
no, it's amazing. It was such a cool opportunity, and to be able to work with you coming from the ad agency world. And maybe you could just do a quick intro of how you ended up at TikTok and ByteDance, and just introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure. So Bryan Cosgrove, I lead the creative licensing team at TikTok and ByteDance. I started my career in live event production and went into music supervision, worked at the Orchard for a couple of years, and then went over to the ad world, where I was in business affairs. And I really just wanted to learn a lot more about other types of licensing, other types of deal negotiation, get a little bit closer to the production side of the business, kind of where music meets picture and what it takes to get it to that point. But then in 2019, I had a couple friends from past roles that were starting to land at TikTok, and more I started seeing all these people that I respected get over there, and I was like, man, this seems like a really great place. It seems like there's a lot of really talented people and professionals that are heading there. And when the opportunity came up, I was sitting on a publishing team. The role was sitting on a publishing team, a publisher licensing team, and they just needed somebody who could figure out sync for our own brands and how they were using music, because we were doing a lot of advertising at the time, a lot of content for the platform at the time. But then also, as more and more brands were discovering the platform, what were the partnerships, what were the policies, what were the products that needed to be made in order to enable those brands to really get involved to a much higher level. So was a great opportunity, and certainly one that I think has continued to remain exciting and evolving over the last 4.5 years.
Yeah, it's incredible. And congrats on just riding the rocket ship the way that you have. And it's funny to think like being there 4.5 years, you're one of the most tenured members of the American music team here. And that's really not that long of a time, but it is in the world of TikTok. So congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing I feel like that always comes up with TikTok is the idea of like the viral song. And so I'm just curious, like, can you talk to us about any patterns that you've seen in this sort of concept of a song going viral on TikTok?
Look, I wish. I mean, I think a lot of what we see on the platform is songs kind of coming out of the ether and having these moments. Sometimes it's an artist who's posting, for the first time. I think back to the Wellerman, which was this big sea shanty trend. Like, how did sea shanties go viral, right? I think about Jake, an artist that was producing with his, the concept of his videos was that he was producing all these songs with his mom.
Yeah.
And then he went incredibly viral. And then, you had Olivia Rodrigo, who was, posted an acoustic version of a track. And then all of a sudden more producers started reaching out and filling in. And then that song was huge. It was on Saturday Night Live. They did a sketch about it. You have all of this emerging talent on one end. And then on the other side, one of my favorite times was as that Olivia Rodrigo song was going viral, Billy Joel's Zanzibar from like the early 1970s was also going viral. And I think it was Hoobastank was also going viral on the platform. So there was, at any given moment, there's all these songs from different eras and from different profile of artists that are starting to blow up. And it's all kind of driven by our community, whether it's, something that really strikes a chord with them. I remember Pieces from the Score library struck a chord with our community, and that, blew that song way up. Other times it's like the perfect song for the perfect moment. Yeah, I mean, it's always, I think if you could figure out what's coming next, it'd be a lottery ticket, right? But it's hard to really draw a trend to it, which is also what makes it so incredibly fun and entertaining.
Do you find that users are driving that trend more often or brands?
It's both, I think. I think with a lot of the stuff that we're starting to see come out of the commercial music library, it's absolutely being driven by brands. You see songs like Sunroof by Nicky Yor last year. There was another track earlier this year by an artist named Inji that went into the commercial music library. That was one of those great kind of like symbiotic moments where she had posted it first on the platform and said, should I finish this track? And users were saying, yes, do it, do it, do it. And she did. It kind of lost a little momentum with the users, but when it went into the CML and brands could use it, it like skyrocketed again. And I think one of the coolest things about the commercial music library as a concept is that when you're dealing with impressions-based advertising, which is a lot of what digital advertising is now, if you allow your music to be used in that way, well, if a brand's paying for 1 million impressions, then 1 million new sets of ears are going to hear your music. And so I think it's coming from both angles, but it's been especially interesting for, I think, the emerging artist sector to see brands really pushing it, and then the community getting super involved with it once they discover the music.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are you looking for in collaborators and musical partners right now?
I mean, I think a deep understanding of the platform is so crucial. It's not necessarily that you have to understand that this is a TikTok sound, because, as I said, there's not one single TikTok sound, but this is a authentic TikTok interaction. And I think our community and the, kind of growing um, uh, idea that like people are online a lot and people are on these types of platforms a lot, they can really suss out when something doesn't feel authentic or genuine. And so for our partners, I think the ones that have had the most success have really leaned into the idea of being platform experts, being community experts, being engaged and authentic, reaching out to creators or musicians that they really like, finding inspiration from them. I think that drives a lot of the success for the partners that have success on our platform, and that's really who we like to work with.
Yeah, because it's really the library itself defies every style of genre. I mean, when you look at even like the top viral charts of TikTok, like sometimes it's more sound driven stuff. If it's like Halloween or Christmas, it's going to be more oriented towards that. Like it just feels like it's almost agnostic, and that the users and brands somehow just throw a lot of stuff out there and then things just stick and have this momentum. And Pieces by Danilo Stankovic is such a good example because it actually has like stood the test of time over like many years. This is like a simple piano emotional build that like anybody who spent more than 10 minutes on the platform probably recognizes and immediately is like, oh, that's that TikTok song. And so I think like, how do you reverse engineer that is the big question that everybody's trying to figure out, including us. So
All
we'll keep
vibes.
trying.
It's all just vibes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, it obviously like it's the perfect storm. And I think it's hard to even dissect and untangle to understand. But if you were sort of predicting the future, where do you see all this short form content heading? I mean, where are people going to be listening to music, and where's discovery heading, on the platform?
I mean, it's probably a cop out if I say I don't know. I think what's interesting to me is that I think that the short form content as we know it is evolving quite a bit, right? When I joined the platform, it was primarily like 15-second videos. And they've gone longer over time. You still have, in my mind, I like to think about those really short clips as more of like the meme content. But there's definitely more narrative content coming out, educational, how to, et cetera. And I think that people are everybody really likes to consume their content in different ways, and that's why the algorithm is so great. You'll be served a lot of the stuff that you really enjoy. But as far as kind of discovery goes, one of the things that I'm really excited about that we just launched within the last few weeks is the Discover mode, where you can actually, find a song on our platform and then click into that song and save it on your DSP of choice. So if you find a song, you can kind of seamlessly add it to Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon. Which is great. I mean, we like to consider ourselves a music discovery platform. If you ever scroll through my TikTok feed, you'll see a lot of like kind of like the music blogger types, where it's like, here are 5 albums that you should listen to right now on Bandcamp, or here's like 10 new indie albums, or my top 10 world albums of 2024. And having the opportunity to like click straight through that and go right into Spotify and start listening to the album, I think is very cool. So it's an interesting time for, I think, investment in the music industry, and there's a lot of great technology that's out there, but kind of creating that halo effect where everything feels interconnected and you can get more easily from video content to music, and even like purchasing a record. Is just to me, immediate future, but a really exciting one.
That's awesome. So when a music composer like wants to become an expert on TikTok, like you said, it's really important to understand the platform, and like there's probably no better way than to just spend time as a consumer. But I also think there's a whole other angle, which is what happens when you put your creator hat on and try to make, a name for yourself or just put yourself out there on TikTok. Do you have any sort of recommendations on just where do you even start with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things about TikTok that I love is that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to show up and be super polished or know how to do the transitions perfectly. And, Gary Vee always talks about like putting your 10,000 hours in and understanding how things work and like really trying and testing things out. And if you look back at the early days, I think a lot of the most successful creators on our platform were posting like 6 and 7 times a day and really just getting involved and trying new things. And that engagement does go a long way. And you're not, again, it's just, you're not going to be perfect overnight. But as you go through and you start to become a part of the community, I think my favorite example was this artist Abso Facto, who I think put out a song in 2015 or 16, and it didn't go very far, didn't do much for him. And then it got picked up on TikTok was part of a Dissolve challenge or hashtag. And he got on, somebody called him, was like, hey, look at this. And he got on and he started like commenting on people's posts, like, this is so cool. Thanks for using my song. And then people would comment back. And he started really ingraining himself in the community, and the community paid that back to him tenfold. I think those interactions, it took him, 2 seconds to reach out and just be like, that's so cool, and comment on a video. And people love that. People love to be seen and feel seen for their creativity. And as a musician and an artist, that's a great way to, instantly start to build that community around your music and your songs.
When you're creating or when you're looking for new music in the CML, and I know like you're a little bit outside of that in the day to day, but like how would you go about, like, you don't want to really copy what is trending when you're writing music. It's almost like you need to come up with like what could be trending next month. What's the next thing? And I think that's similar to other industries that we're in, where like film trailer music, for example, if you're just copying what came out, like somebody could have been working on that for 9 months. Like, you need to be thinking about what the next unique signature sound is, or what could be really your unique take on it. And I think we try to recommend the same sort of philosophy with creating music specifically for TikTok. Is there any sort of insight you might have on just how to even think outside the box? Like, where do you find inspiration to do that?
I think, one of the really great things about like creator communities is that they are expert collaborators. And you will see, a creator who's, big somewhere else on the platform, meet a creator who's big in a different vertical, and kind of come together and community build together in videos or, content. And, the music community has a great opportunity to do that as well. If you think about some of the viral songs over the last 4+ years, they've been, versions of other songs, if they're covers, if they're sped up, if they're, there's these endless iterative opportunities around music. And I think that, one thing you could do as a frequent user of our platform is find some of the users who are doing these remixes or these sped up versions or whatever, and collaborate with them, get them to work with you on your music, get them to guest on your music, maybe do a vocal. That's borrow, a strategy from the creator community and apply it to music. And I think you could see it go a long way.
How has TikTok changed the way you consume music? I mean, you talked about sort of like following these like bloggers on the platform, but I mean, is it truly like your discovery method at this point?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I'm very big on nostalgia on TikTok. I rediscover albums that I loved in the 90s and then start like obsessively listening to them again. And then then I start to look up production techniques. And now my feed is, in addition to a lot of the blogging stuff, I get a lot of producer content and learning different techniques. It's interesting. I actually have started buying a lot more vinyl in the last few years. I've always collected, but it's been like a massive consumption really recently. And I think a lot of that is driven by my discovery on TikTok, like especially of this nostalgia stuff. I'm like, man, that's a great Japanese jazz compilation, and I'll go look it up, find it, and it's this great kind of real world, phone world, amalgamation there that happens. But yeah, I think, maybe my algorithm's different than a lot of people's. I know a lot of people in the music world who get a lot of like parenting TikTok or get, gardening TikTok or whatever it is. And so everybody's is different, but mine is just constantly flooded with great recommendations and, great things to dig into.
Is TikTok starting sort of to sign their own artists and as like a record label? Like, how do you view your place in that future of working more directly with artists, other than, of course, partnering with companies like Score, who have the track record and do the CML and everything like that?
So we're not starting a record label. I think there's a lot of structure and incentives that happen at record labels that just don't work on our side of things. I think, if you're thinking about Sound On, which is a distribution platform that we have, that's really geared towards helping artists get their music into these places where they can monetize it. We've noticed that just so many artists have these moments on the platform and they have no idea what to do next. And Sound On is really the opportunity to like get their music out there. I think, at our core, we are a kind of creativity company, and we want to build the tools for all creatives of all types, not just musicians, to reach more people, to create careers around around their creativity and things that inspire other people. And so, Sound On can be thought of, I think, as a tool to aid that pursuit for musicians and artists. So I think, we will always think about our role as being that kind of creativity first, creator tool first company, and really try to pursue that with ways to make it easier to make a career, to reach audiences, etc.
That's awesome. I saw one of the comments from David Doss here, who's on our roster, just talking about sort of the trends of like slowing down a song, speeding up a song, and like sort of these unexpected edits, which I've always really appreciated, is like somebody just like throws up like a slowed down version of a song and that's what goes viral. And yeah, I think like it just goes to show, like, try different things, it might surprise everybody. Brands, users alike, like, are always looking for those different things.
Totally. I totally agree. And I think, like, I mean, users especially, right? Like there's no real telling what they're going to gravitate towards, but it's usually something that like hits a little different, that makes you stop scrolling, that makes you want to just like fully engage, because it is so sound first as a platform. Having that thing that's going to just jump out of your feed and stop you in your tracks is I think really powerful.
Well, Bryan, thank you so much, man, for joining us. This has just been amazing and insightful and inspiring. And we appreciate you and everything that you shared.
Thanks so much for having me, and for all of those in attendance. Really appreciate the time. Looking forward to another 4+ years of partnership together. It's been a great run so far.
Thanks, man. Have a beautiful day, everybody.